Good morning. Hope you're having a wonderful day today. We're going to be spending today in my range on my own property. So I want to share with you kind of my setup. I actually had a comment in a previous video basically asking for a little bit more info and my setup of my range. And if you watched any of my previous videos ever, I'm always walking through the range, or I'm referencing the range, like the goats are in it, or they're walking through it, or the new pasture that's gonna be by the range, things like that. Hey buddy. So yeah, today we're gonna go check out the range and I'll show you what it's all about. So here is my range. This was all wooded property a few years ago. And I kind of did a little hike through, walkabout, kind of figured out where I maybe would want to put a range, cleared out all the trees and the brush, came up with this. This range from this point on to my last gong is 70 yards. But the range doesn't necessarily need to end there. I can go this direction, away from my range, sit on my driveway. We can get to 100 yards back here. I've got that building in the tree line. We get about 150, 200 into the bean field. We can get to about 250 yards max before the dip on the other side starts to be too much and we can't quite see through this. So in total, long distance, I can get up to about 250 yards. And so the range itself really kind of starts right about here. This is probably one of the latest additions. I never had a shooting bench. Always kind of wanted one, was always like just leaning against trees and stuff, and it was just always a pain in the butt. So I built this. I actually have a video. You can go search it back and you can locate that. I list all of the wood and how I kind of put this thing together. Pretty simple, but it has been amazing to have something stable to shoot off of, especially when you're sighting in a new rifle, things like that. So when I first laid this thing out, I wanted one main thing was something to mark sort of like specific distances. And so I had these old railroad ties, and so that's what we got here. So first little tie, it's only a 4-footer. That is only 10 yards away from basically this shooting bench area. Then we got there, that's 20 yards. There's a 30 yard. Then there's a bench way back there, right there, kind of by the fridge. That's 50 yards. And I wanted that because I wanted to have quick reference for the yardages as I'm just sitting back here. So there's just not a lot of guessing that needed to be put out there. So if you're shooting a little handgun and you're doing good at 20, you want to reach out to 30, you know exactly where 30 is at. If you want to really reach the distance, there's 40 there. Now I didn't stop there, I actually placed targets in between all those to kind of give me all the numbers. So when you actually look at it, here's 10, that's 15, the IDPA, just like a mid-size. There's your 20. I got some 25s. There's that line right there, be 25. There's your 30. Then over there, be 35, 40, 45, and then there's your 50. So I basically have everything marked out so I can make it as easy as possible. And especially when I have guests over, it kind of makes it really, really nice. So that way they don't have to do much guessing. They can just literally just look down, count 5, 10, 15, whatever, until they get to their spot. They don't have to be doing a bunch of walk back and forth, or they don't have to be doing any range finding, things like that. And they can just have fun utilizing the range. So me growing up, I remember multiple weekends where my dad had buddies over and they were shooting skeet or trap shooting or whatever, pulling these things back, launching them clays in the sky, and they're blasting them. So I knew I wanted one. This is an old like cattle water tank, and it's extremely heavy. So I knew it would be a perfect base. I found it somewhere, I don't know, in the trees or something, but it's not gonna move. So I just mounted this to here and it shoots this across the entire range. And it's about center of the range at about 25 yards. So it's just a perfect, it's pretty simple, smooth, just to blast some clays. It's just always a fun time. So basically at the 15-yard mark, this is the first piece of anything I made myself, just some rebar. I welded this together, found some like S clips and stuck these on. These are 3-inch AR 500, 3/8 thick steel. So they hold up to quite a bit, and then they spin. So as you shoot them, it's all kinds of fun stuff. This one's bent up enough, it eventually fell off, but it took a while for that to happen. And we shoot everything at these. And here we got Caldwell T-post brackets. These are basically square tubes with some nuts and bolts that secure themselves to a T-post. They seem to work pretty darn well, but here's where it seems to kind of fail. When I first installed it, the depth didn't seem right and this thing wanted to twist back and forth. So I stuck this giant washer back here to wedge up against the back of the T-post itself to kind of just make it a little more secure. Then there's a spring here that's supposed to be to absorb this. Well, when you shoot this, a couple thousand times, that spring, it's pretty much useless now. So it's just kind of dangling here. So it still works, but it's not serving the purpose like it's meant to be. It should be, I can still probably tighten it up here, but it's still gonna be hitting the T-post. I like it out here, a little bit more swing to it, but it's working, it's holding up. And then there's two bolts back here. This is actually what tightens to the T-post on the back side and kind of makes it nice and secure. So they are not perfect, but they seem to work. Also at my 15-yard mark, I got this. This is probably one of the newest targets I got. I wanted something up front and close just for a lot of handgun fun. This is IDPA. This is 12 by 20, so it's kind of like a mid-size, but it seems to work pretty good. It's a AR-500, 3/8 thick. Just held on by some chains, takes that, and there's a lot of weight, so it's gonna take a lot of abuse, and it's gonna just splatter that round down to the ground. So it seems to work pretty slick. I'm very happy with that one. Moving on up to my 20-yard line, I got some more of these IDPAs. These are the minis. These are like 6 by 12. Got the Caldwell brackets up here too. These seem to be holding up pretty darn well. They don't seem to get shot quite that often. I don't know why, but the springs are still intact. Everything seems to be functioning really well. No loose anything. Got a little 6-inch one, little plate on a Caldwell, and then another IDPA. And it's just fun to have multiple, so you can just, go down the line. And then these, you'll see, are just kind of hanging all over the property or all over the range. These are just little 2-inchers. I got like a set of like 8 or 10 of them, and I just threw them up. These are all plant hangers. This is what I originally used to use on every single one of my targets. It'd hold up any of these. It might bend down a little bit, but they seem to hold up very well. Very rarely did I ever have to throw one of these out. Every once in a while you'll miss, and if you're centered, you'll clip that post and it might eventually break. But I've only replaced probably 2 or 3 of these over the years. But since then, I have upgraded all the T-posts and the Caldwell brackets, but I still have these for all these little ones. So if you're feeling like you want to challenge, we got some small ones out here, have a little fun with. And then we got an 8-incher, 8-inch round on a Caldwell. And this bracket's actually really, and it's gonna happen. They're gonna, after so much shooting, it's gonna naturally vibrate loose a little bit. So you have to come back and re-tighten a few things up. Now you can see here, I have some buddies over, getting a little wild, and they're taking out this T-post. There's huge chunks missing, but it's still holding. It still seems to work pretty good. But yeah, another 8-inch here right along the bench. And this is a little 1-incher or 1.5 inches. I can't remember what that one was, but just another one of those fun ones. If you think you can get it, go for it. And we've got some swinging gongs over here. We have a 6-inch on top and an 8-inch on the bottom. These are, again, all AR-500, 3/8 thick, meant to take the abuse. Now, the only thing I don't like about this setup, which is not the end of the world, is the splatter from this one goes down directly into this one. So the top of this one is losing all its paint. It's not really chipping it up or anything, but it is something to watch for, and it's also blowing it out towards the chains and these brackets and stuff too. So it is nice because it's fun to have a bigger target, smaller target to kind of just play around with and bounce back and forth, but you do get that overspray, and it's gonna take a little bit more toll on your bottom plate. But all in all, it's a fun shot. All right, our 25 yardage area, we've got 7 by 12-inch rectangles on the Caldwells, and then we got an 8-inch round gong here, and then another little 2-inch here. So I really like to spread out the sizes and shapes amongst all the yardages just to get the variety. I never want to not want to attempt shooting or have my buddy shooting at a certain yardage because there's only 6-inch plates or 6-inch whatevers or 8s, and they can only hit a 10-inch group with it from that yard. I don't know, you know, but I like to have the variety. I want to keep it fresh and fun, so there's always something different at every yard. You can just work your way down the entire thing. Now our 30 is another one of our benches, low to the ground, and then we got our 8-inch round on a Caldwell, and another one of our 7x12s on a Caldwell. This seems to be like the prime range here. 30 yards, it's decent with a, I mean, we shoot everything. So I mean, I can't just say a low caliber, but even a high caliber rifle will take these. I have broke the bolts on these things. I have hit the targets hard enough to actually blow the head off of the carriage bolts that are holding these on here. So there's gonna be some wear and tear and repair that's needed, but yeah, handgun distance, this is great. Low caliber, little 22s and stuff, this is awesome, fun with the kids too. Just 30 yards just seems to be a prime spot. With 35 yard, I only got one target. We got this one right here. It is an 8-inch round gong. These are just so much fun because they take that punishment and they get pushed out of the way. You got the splatter going down and they just seem to last very, very well. So the goats are on the run. Now my 40 yard line is kind of at a slight angle. Not sure why I did that, but we got 8-inch right here. Oh, and the springs wore out on that one too. It's pretty jiggly. And then we have an 8-inch gong over here. So those are the single holes right there. These are the double holes. Gives it more of that gong sound. So between 40 yards and 50 yards, I have nothing. That's just kind of no man's land. But here at 50, we got the nice big wood bench, and then we have a low 6-inch and a high 8-inch. And here is a great example of the lower target getting hammered by the upper target. There is what I was talking about. There's the splatter from the upper target going down, hitting the top of here, kind of chewing it up. Like I said, it's not going to destroy it because it's just getting little shards, little pieces and fragments hitting that. It's mostly going to be paint damage, but it does do some damage. There you go there. Kind of blows it off. Now right about here is where the flatland stops and it starts to kind of creep up a little bit. So I had to get creative. I had to come up a few feet, but this allowed me to get to 60 yards. So at 50, we have a 6 and an 8. At 60, I have a 6 and a 10. So again, these are, you know what? This is actually, this one up here, this is a 1/2 inch. What happened is I had a 3/8 out here at one point in time. Someone brought over like a 300 mag or something big, and it literally blew holes through my 3/8 AR-500 targets. We didn't really realize it until we came down the range and we saw it and we could just see the daylight through it. And he felt extremely bad about it. And a week later, this showed up in the mail to me. He went out and bought me a new target, 1/2 inch one. So it works out. So yeah, we got actually a 1/2 inch here, which is probably good because it's a lot more big calibers will be taken on these ones right here. And then a 6. So 6 and 8, 6 and 10. And then my 70 is a 6 and a 12. Because there's this little cutaway where the fingers, which allowed me to creep up a little bit higher in elevation, but it allowed me to get all the way back here to a 70 yard location, along with all the goats. Hey buddy. Hey buddy. So like I said, 12 and a 6. And again, I did that for a reason because I wanted to have options. I wanted to be able to shoot the distance, hit the 12, feel good about myself because I made some noise, but to be able to drop it down and take out a 6, that is a little bit more impressive. So you got your 50, 60, 70, all with 6 inchers, and then you got an 8, 10, and 12. Seems to work out. Back at the 50 yard line, some of you all might have noticed, but I got these 2 giant concrete balls. These are Atlas stones from strongman competitions. My brother actually made these for his events. Had some extras that were not perfect, so I got them from him. My plan was to, you know, take a few rounds at them, just never got around to it. So maybe in a future video, I don't know yet. So they're back here waiting. Okay, so let's get down to the details of some of the stuff you've been seeing. Now we've got the layout and kind of what is going on with the range, but as you heard, every single one of my targets is 3/8 thick other than the 60-yard gong. All AR 500 steel. Everything that is hanging from a chain is held up with these carriage bolts. These are all 3/8 carriage bolts, and they're 1.5 inches long. That allows the head to be flush with the target. The square collar or neck is inside the hole, and then you got your chain washer, a lock washer, and your nut. And that seems to fit pretty well. Now, I have had instances, a lot of instances, where the power of the round has blown the head off of these carriage bolts and basically pulled this through the target, and then it's left dangling. What's up, bro? So that is an issue. I carry a bunch of carriage bolts on hand. I am looking into if they maybe make something harder, more hardened steel, I guess, for those, but it doesn't happen all that often, but it does happen on occasion. Now, the chains are all linked up to these. These are actually steel post hangers. These are actually made out of AR 500. I found these on eBay. I think they're only 1/4 inch, but again, they're held up with the carriage bolt, 3/8 1.5 inch, all the same components there, and it slides right down your T-post. It's fit right there, and it rests on these nubs, and that's it. So I can adjust them up and down as needed. Now on occasion, with the vibration, they do slide pretty easily. Sometimes they'll fall and slip and stuff, but they do work pretty darn good. And I think they look pretty nice too, so it's always kind of a plus. But yeah, that's kind of the general layout of these targets. Now, one thing I've also ran into with those T-post hangers is not everything is perfect. Not every T-post is perfect. Not every single item is perfect. And so there has been a few times where I've actually had to take a hammer and just hammer those T-post hangers down the T-post to get to the right spot. And then you're good. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's not gonna be perfect, but I have, 24 of them out here. And them darn goats. Just trying to jump on my bow target. Get it, AJ. Get it. But yeah, bring a hammer, might have to use it, make it fit, make it work, and it'll work. And then all the Caldwell target holders, they seem to work, like I said, pretty well. You can buy these extra springs. You can get them from Ace Hardware or even Amazon, I suppose, if you wanted to. I've never had anything else really majorly fail on these. Like I said, I have had the head pop off once or twice. Had to replace this one. I think it's a 6-inch carriage bolt here, but it seems to take quite a bit of abuse. It's still pretty wobbly, but it's serving its purpose. It's not going nowhere. And last note on those steel targets is just paint them. I paint them all white. I have a couple cans of spray paint. A couple days or the day of shooting, I will go ahead and just coat it. Doesn't have to look perfect. No one's gonna see it up close. So just douse it in spray paint, clean it up. And remember, the back side also gets hit too. So the front, it's all nice and new paint, but the back side feels the vibration and it bounces up against whatever it's hanging against, and it'll blow paint off too, and that will start to rust also. So you got to paint the entire target, front and back. So the last couple details of my range itself in the land, I guess. So right now I am at the 30-yard mark. And from right here, I have a bank over here, which is probably about 10 feet tall, that runs the entire length all the way down. Now this is open woods into my woods, and there's nothing over there. I'm not shooting that direction, but there might be some spray, things like that. Might have to go that way, but there's nothing over there that's gonna be damaged. Now my ravine runs along the top of this whole thing. That is about 15 feet high on the back, and it runs the entire length all the way over there. So there is zero worry that it's gonna hit or take out anything beyond there. And those aren't just banks. That just doesn't stop there. The land is actually that tall and actually slowly creeps up as it goes. So it's not like something's gonna blow through that bank, come out the other side. There is no other side. It is solid land all the way up there for the next 3/4 of a mile. And in case someone gets a little too wild in my range and they start to, lose control, they're shooting something a little bit too fast and their muzzle keeps rising and they do shoot in these directions and then potentially goes over my bank. That's why I place this here at this specific angle, because in that direction, there is nothing. My only neighbors are one clear over there, which is about 2/3 of a mile away, and one clear over that direction, which is another 1/3 of a mile away. So zero worry of a house or anyone's property that people are on will get any kind of damage or anything flying their direction. Now this is just what worked for me. I just got lucky. For the first 5 to 6 years, I used to set up paper targets and milk jugs and stuff on the other side of my property on this little flat chunk. And then when we were done, we had to clean it all up, put it away. And we did that forever, and it was a lot of fun and stuff. But at the end of the day, I wanted and I knew I needed something permanent and safe. And that's what this has created. So this has been years in the making, and I've slowly added all the targets and stuff too. So it might take a while to get to this level. And there's people gonna have bigger and better ranges than what this is. But for me, this is a lot of capacity for me to shoot pretty much anything I have. So it works out pretty darn well for me. And it's safe distances from my house is up there. So we're shooting in a complete opposite direction. We can still have family and friends over. We're down here doing our thing. They're up there, they can grill, play with the kids. The play set's clear in that other direction. So strategically placing this was key for me because I wanted to not just let it sit idle, and I wanted to be able to use it at any time, no matter who's over, no matter what's going on. They're gonna see how safe this is, and they're not gonna have any issue with us shooting when their kids are up there playing this or that, like that. So it all played in a part of it. It took a while to get to this level, but I'm here now, and it's fun, it's enjoyable. All right, full range tour with all the details I thought you might need. If you have any more questions, comment below. Hope you all enjoyed it. See y'all next time. Later.